Hey everybody, so I avoided talking about it pretty well within the subdivision specific video, but this A property, reference number CB&M 8054A, is a really interesting lot. It's got a lot of additional features that you don't usually see with properties, which I did want to delve into a little bit more in this video. Obviously what you see from the headline here, the partially fenced lot, the highway frontage. I want to discuss where that fencing is, where those utility easements are, talk more about the highway frontage, but more specifically about what's probably the most curious feature of the property, which is that it's basically divided in half by a legal easement, by a legal road that exists out there. So I figured everybody would have questions about that. I wanted to go into more details here. So first off, if we scroll down to the gallery, we've got plat maps down here. Just want to direct your attention to this for a second. Number one, of course, the subject property is down here. It's in the southwesternmost portion of the subdivision. This is the entire Fence Lake Ranch subdivision. This property sits down here basically right at the tail end of the sub, both to the south and to the west. What this means, of course, is that you're backing up here to privately owned land. This private landowner seems to have a lot of property. Has all this, and seems to have a lot of land extending west of the highway here. Whatever the case, the person has fenced the northern portion of their property boundary, which means the southern portion of yours, so that fencing exists down here separating the southern portion of your land from their property. Of course, one of the nice benefits of that is that your boundaries are pretty well dictated for you in advance, so you're not going to have to hire a surveyor to come out there and tell you exactly where that southern boundary is. And I will show you that a little bit more in some photos later. Right now, however, let's just go to the drone overlay because this gives you a sense of the size, shape, the location, the general footprint of the land, as well as some of these features we're going to discuss. So the first one, of course, is the highway frontage over here. This is Highway 36. Basically, you turn off this and voila, you are home. You are on your land. Of course, the nice thing about that is 36 is state maintained, which means even in inclement weather, you're going to have pretty good driving conditions. Should also be noted that this road right here, this is Pine Hill Road. I'll talk about it a little bit more in a bit, but this road's in pretty good shape as well. As you'll see in the photos, well-maintained dirt gravel road. Of course, it's not state maintained, but access or navigating these roads is not going to be a problem no matter what kind of vehicle you drive. Now, additionally, guys, I want to point out you've got two utility easements running through the property. One going north-south here along along the western boundary of the property. You can also kind of see the underground utilities right here. Additionally, you've got a utility easement going west to east here along the southern portion of the property. The point is that when you look at a property like this, maybe the road throws you off. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe you're only going to develop one portion of it. Maybe you have a mind to subdivide the property into two 10-acre lots or two 20-acre lots or four 10-acre lots or 8 5-acre lots. I don't know. But even if you chop these up, you're going to have utility easements here along this property and servicing this end of this. And by the way, even if these utility easements didn't exist, of course, there's power on one end of this property. There's power. There's underground utilities out here. Not difficult to get extended out to the subject property and get serviced. Obviously, you can see some developed home sites out here and out here as well. They have obviously built up some pretty nice, homes out there, and you'd have the ability to do that too. Now, with all that said, let me just go up here to the more specific, closer photos. So first off, mailboxes out here at the corner. You can get a mailbox set up out here. You're not going to have to drive into Gallup to go to a P.O. box. You can have your box out here. The properties do not have formal addresses right now. Of course, that's something that you'd have to talk to the county about. You'd have to talk to the local post office about. But you can get your own mailbox set up out there. And when our photographer was out there, he reported seeing the postman dropping off mail and even saw a FedEx truck driving around, dropping off packages at some home sites. So that's nice. Number one. Number two, this is Pine Hill Road going through the property. This indicates a couple things. Number one is that, again, this road's in good shape. It's in good condition. But number two, it shows us that the northern portion of the property has kind of an incline to it. So the southern portion is a lot flatter. The northern portion is up a scooch higher, slightly higher elevation. So maybe if you build up there, you'd have slightly nicer views than you would on the southern portion. But the point is that is the only real variance in the terrain out there. Southern portion is flat, northern portion a little more hilly. And then here we have the utility easement along the southern portion of the property, just backing up here to the fence. The fences that we will show you in some upcoming photos. Here, of course, the underground utilities that exist in this region, good for getting internet, phone, cable, so on and so forth out there on the property. And additionally, more photos of the road. Oh, also, we talk about how Cibola County doesn't really have a lot of formal zoning. They defer to covenants, restrictions, HOAs, etc. This subdivision has neither covenants and restrictions nor an HOA. So it's a benefit to you, the buyer, because, of course, it allows you to develop the property in whichever way you please. Indiscriminately camp or park an RV on it for, however long you like, etc. One of the drawbacks, of course, is that every so often a Yahoo shows up. They half-build a structure, park an abandoned RV, they leave it there, and you have to stare at that eyesore every day, and there's not much you can do about it. Whatever the case is, you can see, pretty close to the subject property, there's one of those such RVs. Anyway, more photos of the road. These are from the eastern portion of the property facing west, of course, because it's a massive property, 40 acres. We just want to give you a sense that the roads are in good condition all along the property boundaries. And here's more of that. And also in this photo, you can see that kind of underground utility easement pole sticking out of the ground that we showed you in the earlier photo. So this is another thing I want to point out to you. This is the eastern boundary of the property. It's turnoff along an unnamed road. If we go to the map right here, this is the road that we're talking about. One of the nice things about this, particularly if we kind of go back here and show you the Google Earth satellite image, this is what the property looks like. Again, your southern boundary is dictated by the fencing, your western boundary by the placement of the highway. The eastern boundary is pretty well laid out by the placement of this road right here. Excuse me. The northern boundary is the only portion that isn't fenced, that isn't clearly indicated. So maybe you want to get a surveyor out there for that, particularly if you're going to have livestock on the property or if you're worried about someone else's livestock wandering onto your land. For the most part, however, it's a massive property. It's 40 acres. So even if you just kind of guess at where that northern boundary might be and you try to play it conservative and maybe you cut an acre off your land, something like that, if you don't want to pay for the surveyor, you're probably still going to be fine. It's such a large property. Anyway, so finally, let's just talk about this road that cuts through the property here. Pull up one of the drone photos, get a better sense of this. So again, Pine Hill Road. One thing I want to point out to you guys is that for however lacking this area may be in covenants or restrictions or an HOA or formal zoning, it should be noted this is a legal road that's cutting through this property. So if you buy these 40 acres, you will not have the right to bar access from other people crossing this road through the property. Okay? So it's a legal road. It's a legal easement for all the landowners who are over here or in other portions of the subdivision. They have to be able to use this to get through. So that's something you're going to have to live with. So if that's a deal breaker for you, then you probably shouldn't buy the property. But if you recognize that it probably doesn't get a lot of traffic in the first place and, it's fairly secluded to begin with, and that's really not a problem for you, it's just an FYI. Point being, you're not going to be able to obstruct access to this road. It is a legal road. With all that said, guys, take a tour of the drone overlays down here, the rest of the photo gallery. Again, we do have a drone video up at the bottom of the page that'll give you an even better sense of the terrain, the surroundings, so on and so forth. But these are your additional insights about this specific property. Hope that was helpful.